Welcome to the Mother's Justice Show. This is Shakundi Salisbury filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden, who is unable to do the show again today, but we are keeping her in our prayers. So today, the Mother's Justice Show, I'm welcoming an amazing guest, somebody who is in the thick of it, if you will, and a person that represents, why this organization and my mother started this organization in the first place with Mothers for Police Accountability. We know that Reverend Walden is a fan of overall accountability, community accountability, as well as police accountability. And so in that, we will have Chief Shon Barnes in momentarily coming to the stage. As a reminder, please follow us on our socials at MFPA206 on Instagram and Twitter, and of course on Facebook at Mothers for Police Accountability. Let's get into it. So welcome, Chief Barnes. It's so glad to have you on the show today. Man, so you've been in Seattle for a little bit, and prior to the show, we talked a little bit about some of your achievements and the things like that, but I also want to get you to talk about some of those things. First of all, for full transparency, I want to let the listeners know that I do, in fact, know Chief Barnes from, he is a proud graduate along with myself and several others in the area from Elizabeth City State University in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And so I will say Viking Pride.
Team Pride.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, yeah, let's get into it, man. You've only been in Seattle about 10 months. And I know that you have told me personally a little bit about, the substantial progress that you've made, but what are some of the defining moments of your leadership so far?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to come on. And, my thoughts and prayers go out to Reverend Walden. Your mom certainly reached out to me when I first got here, offered me words of encouragement and support. And so I certainly want to do the same thing to her and let you and your family know that if I can do anything for you, let me know. That's what community really is all about. But I've been here now for 11 months. Sometimes it feels like 11 years, but they've been really, really good months, long days of some great, great work. Some of the things I think I'm most proud of in the first 11 months, almost a year, is establishing relationships with a great community, a great diverse community, putting together a crime plan to address not only crime, but also the harms that are associated with it, working with other city departments in a way that has not been done in a very, very long time, re-energizing those relationships with other city departments like Parks, Lights, SDOT, which does our transportation, making sure that government works for absolutely everyone to make sure that we're safe. And we're seeing some great results about that. We're empowering people to get their job done and do their job well, including our precinct commanders. And so I think we're really on a really, really good path. And we believe we're going to continue on that.
So, one of the things, thank you for that. One of the things that was exciting to us, at least in the Black community, you were the first Black man, unanimously confirmed as a chief of police here in Seattle, right? And of course, we had the Harry Bailey, Chief Bailey, respect to him and all the work he put in as an interim chief. But being the first Black chief in this, obviously this is a non-Black city, if you will, how does that shape your approach to leadership and your community engagement?
Yeah, leadership, by definition, truly is an influence process, and there's many ways you can do that. I do understand that, as a Black man in leadership, sometimes I can't influence people by my presence. If you've never been led by a Black male in this position, and indeed, as you mentioned, there's only been one other prior to me, and he was an interim chief who have had opportunity to meet before. But what I will say is my approach to leadership really stays the same. I try to model the behavior that I want to see. I try to let everyone know what my vision is for the department, and I try to get people to buy into that vision because
Right.
one person does not move anything. It has to be a shared vision. I believe in empowering people so that we can challenge traditional ways of doing things. Someone asked me recently, who are my critics? And I said, I only have really two types of critics: those that believe in the status quo and those that believe in being low performing. Everyone else seems to like me. And so I say that's a really big part of it. Encouraging people to really challenge the process and kind of move forward. But I also want to get to know people, and I know that takes some time. I want to establish trust with people. We're an agency of over 1,000 people, and I want to get to know each and every one of them so that they know that they have a chief that truly cares about them. And the same thing with the community as well. When I lead with who I am. I'm Essie Mae's grandson, and I just happen to be a chief of police.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good answer. Thank you for that. Like I said, when you first came, we were pretty excited about it, and many of us in the black community. Let's get into crime reduction and public safety outcomes. We had Michelle Reese on the show here last week, and she talked about some of the progress that's going on with the murder investigation around her son, Robert Fleeks Jr., and those investigators. And I know that we've really been, or to some folks, I think that folks are starting to notice that there has been a clearance rate, but we still have many, unsolved and homicides where young people or folks have, was a shooting and no suspects. Can you tell us a little bit about that clearance rate and, about how far it is about the national average, but what else are we going to do to keep getting that clearance rate up higher?
I think the short answer is community trust. Police officers cannot do their job when it comes to investigation without the trust and cooperation of the community. Community standing up saying that this type of behavior is not acceptable. Nationally, the clearance rate for homicides is about 61%.
Mm.
Last year, the clearance rate for homicides in our city was 57%. The year before, it was 49%. Since my arrival, our clearance rate is 83%. And I think that's due to the work of the men and women of the Seattle Police Department, both sworn and professional staff. And it's also due to the cooperation and communication we have with our community. One homicide is too many. One unsolved homicide is too many. So this is certainly not a victory lap for me or for my agency. We
Right.
know there's still more work to be done, but it's important that our folks know that we're trying to bring justice to victims swiftly, and having an 83% clearance rate on our homicides is just one step closer to that.
Speaking of that, Chief, one of my youngest, the twins. This wasn't my contemporary, but the young woman, that was a 30-year-old murder that was solved recently, and I was actually scrolling through to try to find her name. I believe it was Tamika. But can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, in our community, because I actually grew up over there near Miller Community Center, and she disappeared from over there. I think she went to Meany or TT Minor, but most certainly in the CD. And to find this, to crack this old case, I mean, I think that gave people some sense of justice. I saw a lot of posts about that. Can you talk a little bit about that case?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. Again, it's still going through the process, and we want to make sure that everyone receives a fair trial. I don't say anything that would potentially hurt a jury pool. But let me say this: Tanya Frazier was
Time.
a young lady who did not deserve to have her life cut short and the potential of what she could have been cut short. And although on television they use the term cold case, we don't use that anymore because no case ever becomes cold for us. We have a unit that does investigate cases that we have not cleared yet, and because of advances in technology like and science like DNA, we're able to bring some closure to families who quite frankly deserve it. And so we did make an arrest in that case, and it is my hope and everyone's hope that justice will be done in that case.
Man, I thank you for that, right? And so, right now, we're here listening to the Mother's Justice Show. Thank you for joining us. My name is Shakandi Salisbury. I'm filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden. And we're going to be right back after the break, and we're talking with our special guest, Chief Barnes of Seattle Police Department. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice.
Okay, welcome back. This is the next segment of the Mother's Justice Show. My name is Shakandi Salisbury, and I'm filling in for the great Reverend Harriet Walden, who's not able to do the show today. I'm joined here in this discussion today with our special guest, Chief Shon Barnes of the Seattle Police Department, and we're just talking about everything and getting some updates from him as he finishes or enters into his 11th month here in the city of Seattle in that role as chief. Chief Barnes, welcome back from the break. As we ended, we talked a little bit about tying in that cold case, and again, I think I mentioned to you last week. I mentioned to you that Michelle Reese was on the call last week, and one of the things that stood out to in that conversation is she said that some people in the community, other people, they helped the investigators. That's one of the ways that they were able to track down one of the people that murdered her son, and she's still working with those investigators and the like. So as you talk about getting community engaged and helping out, that's one of the things that comes to mind. Now, I know that I've seen you in community at some of the events, like when we were up there trying to get the or hearing from you all about the officers at Garfield and what the police department wanted to do. And quite frankly, trust has been strained in our community. I mean, across Seattle. You've seen that when you first got here. What are some of the things that that you're doing to show up in community and build this trust? We saw that you were at Columbia City Beat Walk and First AME, but can you talk about some of the other things that you're doing?
Job is about trust. Someone once stated trust is like building a sandcastle one grade at a time. Sometimes you're building it in the middle of a windstorm too. And so you have to have some stick-to-itness, if that's a word, or you got to be consistent. People don't want police officers just to show up for Thanksgiving giveaways and shop with a cop. They really want us to be consistent in their neighborhoods. And when I talk to people, they always want to tell me stories about the cop that they knew, the cop that used to walk the beat or used to ride the bike or that they could call or that they knew and that they trust. That's what I'm trying to build from a neighborhood standpoint. And so some of the other things that we've been doing is we did a 90-day pilot of a police neighborhood resource center. These were two officers assigned up on the north side to a neighborhood and to a park. They worked not out of the precinct, but out of the neighborhood. And we got a lot of good positive feedback from the community. We saw crime go down. We saw the satisfaction go up because we were receiving less 911 calls for crime and disorder. And so my overall philosophy is that every police officer is a community police officer, and every neighborhood has an officer, and every officer has a neighborhood. That is really the way we try to build trust. But I do believe in going to community events. I love getting the invites. I can't make them all, but I really enjoyed Columbia City because there were some very talented artists out there. So I got a chance to be a part of that. They were so inspiring. I almost grabbed the mic, started singing, and then I realized I can't sing. So I was like, nah, I probably shouldn't do that. But that was great. Being at First AME was great. They've always been a supporter, and just being able to move around the city with our business community, downtown community, community walks, in the Chinese International District, U District. It's what I really like to do. It gets me out of the office, and it's really like, putting money in the bank of trust, right? Because one day
Right.
something's going to happen, and you're going to have to make a deposit, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, yeah, most certainly. We'll get to some of that. We know that we had a big incident, a police involved, officer involved shooting down in, off Othello. We'll talk about that maybe in the next segment. But I just wanted to ask you, with this outreach strategy, obviously you're out there in the community and we see you places, but I've seen a lot more online in terms of marketing and police jobs, and it just seems like there's a greater push. Is that working for you all to try to with this recruitment piece? And are you able to get young people from Seattle to apply to be our officers, right? Like, cause I mean, in my mind, one of the things that I know that my mother's talked about, and young people, as a person that's worked with young people, it just, and no disrespect to you for being from North Carolina and everything, but right, when are we? How can we get more officers from our city that went to school here, love this community, and see themselves as guardians and stewards of our community?
I'm going to do some follow up, and I will get the numbers of officers we hired, a percentage that are from Seattle. We have quite a few. I meet them, and before the badge, they tell me about the high schools that they went to and the neighborhoods that they lived. I'm going to do some follow up and get you those numbers. But we did hire a marketing firm called Epic, who helped us design the way we present ourselves to the community. Our campaign now is called As You Are, because it's important that we want to hire you as yourself. We don't want you to come in and pretend to be your field training officer or some officer you've seen on television or an uncle or family member. We want you to be who you are. We also have a great communications team that's led by Miss Barbara Delalas, who came to us from Harvard University, who former worked for Marriott Properties, who
Right,
understands crisis and understands communication. She worked on a campaign against anti human trafficking at Marriott hotels, which was
right,
very, very successful. So it's about bringing in the right people and having people in the right place. But I do want to mention one other thing. You
yeah,
talked about hiring people from the city. Kids are they're linked by their faith. And what I mean by that is what they believe about the city is a direct relation to what we tell them. And
right.
so I need our adults to tell folks that you have a city and a department that is welcoming to you, and there's a place for you here. And as long as people know that there's a place for them, as far as our young people, they'll consider policing. We have an amazing salary with the new collective bargaining. Starting salaries will be around $120,000 a year.
And
We
that's a
have a
lot of
vol
money.
That's a lot of money. I won't tell you what I made my first year. I'm almost embarrassed.
Right, right.
But what I will tell you is that's a great way for a young person, who lives in the CD or who lives in Columbia City or who's looking to help his family
Yeah.
and can
Or
still
her
stay
family.
home. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or her family or they family,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. You're right. We want to do that. And I'm glad you said that too, because we are a part of 30 by 30. And I want to talk about that briefly.
You know what?
30 by,
Okay.
you want me to wait? I can
Yeah,
wait.
I want to let you wait about that because I do have another question before we get
Sure.
into the break here. I just wanted to ask you, you've added a lot of people, right? There's people out here that have said, you've added, all of these assistant chiefs and Harvard experts and the like, right? Can you talk a little bit about adding, black leadership to your leadership team and this focus on diversity and women? And how is that playing out for you right now in terms of things, right? Because we like, of course, people in community want to see people. We feel as though the community wants to see people that look like them in the command staff. But I'm just wondering, how is that playing out?
I think it's being well received. I reached out to the best candidates that I could, right? For example, my executive director of crime and harm reduction is a white male. His name is
Right.
Dr. Lee Hunt, and he's doing excellent work for us. I mentioned Barbara Delalis earlier. She's a white female, and so it's about getting the right people. But I did bring on a second deputy chief, so we didn't have that before. And his name is Andre Sales. He's a black male. He was a chief of police. I wanted someone in that role that know what it's like to make the final decision, and
Right.
that is something that I didn't have internally. I reached out to Nicole Powell from New Orleans Police Department, who was partially responsible for why the department in New Orleans just completed their consent decree. She did a lot of work on that. And so she's familiar with some of the issues that we were having around the consent decree. And she's worked most of her career in investigations where they had probably tripled the number of homicides that we experience here in Seattle. So she brings a wealth of knowledge. And then, of course, I brought on a chief of staff role in Mr. Alex Ricketts, who I've known for many, many years, and is just a community expert and just excellent at getting things done and working with people. But we also have some internal folks that we're working with and that have completely elevated us. Chief Lori Agard, she's a white female. She's done an extremely good job for us in our training division, making sure that our training, and she's over our force investigation team. Tyrone Davis, who's internal, who's a black male,
Yeah,
who's working.
I saw Tyrone at the community safety
That's right.
meeting over there
Yes.
with Apple, man.
Yeah.
He brings a big presence about him. That you guys were well represented. You know what?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is good. This is good. I'm glad that because I think folks want to know. We only hear, we want to hear about it all, right? We most certainly have a
Sure.
conduit to hear about some of the less than glorious parts of your work, and it's good to hear some of the whys and how you arrive at some of these decisions that you make as the chief. And so we'll talk a little bit more in the next segment about community and events and perhaps a couple of other questions. I do want to talk about that police officer involved shooting that was down on Othello. And so we'll be right back. This is Shakundi Salisbury with the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on. We've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice.
Hey, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show. This is Shakundi Salisbury, and you're listening here on KKNW. I'm filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden today. She cannot do the show, but we're going to keep her in our prayers. If you're not following us on social media, please log on to Facebook and follow our page at Mothers for Police Accountability, and also on Instagram and Twitter at MFPA206. Follow, because we follow back. All right, so we've got the Chief Shon Barnes of Seattle Police Department here with us today on the show, and we've covered a lot of topics around, the closing these cases and the homicide rate and some of these other pieces. One of the things that we wanted to talk about now is really you personally, and what is accountability like? This is Mothers for Police Accountability, and I think that many people in our community are just interested. We don't, especially Black communities of color, we just want to be treated fairly, right? We just want to be treated in a way, and we just want to see some accountability from the people that are here to serve and protect our communities. And we know that kind of tone, if you will, starts at the top of the department, and you are the top police officer here in our city. So I just wanted to take a moment and understand from you, what does accountability mean to you, and how do you exude that to the officers and folks that work with you?
My response to this question is always a little different, because when people hear accountability, they want to know, well, Chief, are you going to give punishment, right? And that's really not my definition of accountability. Accountability starts before something happens. Accountability means that my job is to provide the tools, training, time, technology, team, and the right tactic to get the job done. Then, if that person does not fulfill our expectations, the second part of accountability is to make sure that they're held accountable, looking internally first, that I fail them in my direction or in my policy or in the things that I provided. And if the answer is no, they need to be held fully accountable for their work. And what that means is they have to suffer the consequences of their actions. And is it a mistake of the head, or is it a mistake of the heart? Is it something you didn't know? Or is it something that you did in a way that not going to bring credit to the police department, to yourself, or to your family? And so that's really what accountability means to me. I know there's probably 10 other definitions that people may have, and they say there's no accountability. But I try to look at everything that has happened, and I try to look internally first. What was the failure here, and how can we make sure that this never happens again?
Right. Yeah, that's great. And most certainly that's something that my mother was focused on, and still focused on, and will, yes, when she returns, is accountability, right? And so with that being said, one of the things that she really talked about was community accountability, right? Oftentimes, yes, we know that we have misconduct and the like from officers, but one of the things we talked about on the show last week is with Michelle Reese and her son being murdered, and she talked about how many people know who killed her son, right? And some of the young people that did it, and how hard it is not being able to, just the challenge of those people not saying, what they need to say, right? And I guess so. With that being said, can you just talk a little bit about? I know you mentioned it in the previous segment where we talked about community working with us, but what would be your message to people that that most certainly know something, but they don't want to tell the police, right? They don't want to be the snitch, if you will, in our community, right? What would be your message to them?
Now, there are community members, which is what community policing is all about, that you can go to. A group that we don't have a direct tie to, but I do support is community passageways. And reaching out to a group like that, saying, "Hey, I think I may have some information, but I don't know what to do with it," could be very, very beneficial. But you're right. We all have to be accountable for each other. Throughout the course of my career, I've, had to use my relationships with the community to solve crimes. My chief of staff, I remember we had a gentleman who was on an active killing spree, and he was able to stop that and solve that by going to the barbershop or going to a place that he knows people and they knew that he was a member of the community as well as a police officer. And because of that relationship with the community, we were able to stop an active person who was on an active killing spree. And so it is about the relationships that you build. And again, you're not per se telling the police, but what you are doing is you're trying to get your community safe because that's what we want. No one wants to have to bury a child. And I love what your mother is doing with this program because it's different when it comes from a mom. It's different when a mom is on a radio show talking about how someone's actions affected their life forever. And I've seen the mothers crying and I've delivered the news, and it's something that I do not wish on anyone.
Right, and so that's one of the things that we always talked about with the Silent War Project. Is how can we reduce black on black crime, and so we most certainly have at need in some form or fashion the police presence. But what we talked about was we know who has the guns, right? And so that being said, I read somewhere that you guys have recovered over 400 illegal firearms this year, and what's kind of some of the strategy around how you guys are going after these guns? Because I think people, at least my age, are like, where are these guns coming from, and how can we, get? I mean, it just seems like a lot of kids got guns, and you guys are most certainly getting them off the street, if you will, but there's always more. Right. So, what's your strategy behind some of these seizures, and how does it connect to reducing gun violence in in black community, really Southeast Seattle? We know that that's where a lot of this in the CD is where a lot of this gun violence is happening. Can you speak a little bit about that strategy?
Yeah, I really can, but I want to put things in perspective. The Small Arms Survey, it's a company out of Switzerland, estimates that there are over 300 million handguns in America and over 400 million long guns, which we call a rifle or a shotgun in America. Keep in mind that there are only 305 million people in America. So to put things in perspective, taking 500 guns off the street is great. One gun on there is too many if it's in the wrong hands, not a responsible owner. But what we're seeing is that community members are calling. Community members are giving us information. We're doing a lot of search warrants where people are dealing in narcotics. We're seeing human traffickers now that we're arresting, and those human traffickers are carrying weapons that they're using to intimidate people into human trafficking, and we are seizing those weapons. We also are tracking those weapons to determine their origin, or is there a certain place or location where they are being purchased from. We're using our federal partners like the ATF to levy federal charges on people who are convicted felons for violent crimes, but they know they shouldn't have a weapon, but they have one as well. And so we're doing everything we can to, again, get as many of these weapons out of the wrong hands as possible. I am not anti-Second Amendment. but there is a such thing as responsible gun ownership. And even, people who are pro Second Amendment understand that if you're not going to be a responsible gun owner, you need to not have a gun. And the last thing that I will say is that a lot of these guns, Shakandi, are stolen from unlocked vehicles. I have to just say that you have to lock your weapons away, and using your car as a gun safe is a horrible idea.
Right. You know what's funny? I mean, well, nothing's funny about any of this, but two things that I would say about that is I ended up, I had a gun. In fact, fun fact about Shikandi, people that are listening, who would have thought that Shikandi would have had a gun? And I had to get rid of my gun for that same reason, because I didn't want that gun in the house, because I had little kids at the time. This is a long time ago. Obviously, my kids was in college. And then I didn't want to leave it in the car, right? Because I was always falling asleep, coming home from the club, and not, I'd get my DJ equipment out the car, but sometimes I would forget lock the door. So I was like, I can't have no gun in my car, right? So I could completely see how many of these guns are coming from unlocked cars. The other piece with that is when I ran for office, we were talking about guns in Seattle, and at the time, and I'm not sure if it's changed, but there was no particular place that you could buy a handgun in the city limits of Seattle, right? There's a pawn shop, at least in my district, right? So I was running for the 37th, which is southeast Seattle, parts of Renton and parts of the CD. And in the 37th district, there was not a place where you could legally go in and purchase a gun. There was only that pawn shop, I think Ben's Pawn Shop in Renton, where you could buy a handgun in the 37th district. So thanks for connecting those dots. Basically, many of these guns are coming from unlocked cars as well as other places. So you know what? We're going to end on that part, and we'll be right back, everybody. This is the Mother's Justice Show, and we have Chief Shon Barnes here on KKNW, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Looking for media that truly represents us? Converge Media is where culture meets truth. Seattle's leading Black-owned media network, bringing you powerful stories, local news, and conversations that matter. From the morning update show to groundbreaking community coverage, Converge shines a light on the voices that shape our city, our leaders, our artists, our families. Stay informed, stay inspired, stay connected at whereweconverge.com. That's whereweconverge.com. Converge Media, telling our stories, our way.
Hey, y'all. It's time we take care of what's ours. The Black Legacy Homeowners Hub is now open at the McKinney Center, a safe space to learn, connect, and protect our family homes. Whether you're fixing up your house, passing it down, or just trying to hold on, we've got real people, real help, and real answers waiting for you. So come on by. Drop in between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the McKinney Center on 21st and Jackson. Let's keep our legacy strong, together.
When our children aren't safe, none of us can rest. Mothers for Police Accountability has been standing on the front lines for decades, demanding justice, truth, and transparency in Seattle. But we can't do it alone. We need you, parents, students, neighbors, to join us. Volunteer, speak up, be part of the movement that keeps our communities safe and our voices heard. Visit mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. That's mothersforpoliceaccountability.org. And stand with the mothers who never stop fighting for what's right. Mothers for Police Accountability. Love in action for justice.
Okay, welcome back for the last segment here on the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW. This is Shakandi Salisbury Sr., and I'm filling in for Reverend Harriet Walden here on the Mother's Justice Show. And today I'm sitting with Chief Shon Barnes of the Seattle Police Department. Hey, Chief, I just, once again, before we get out of here, I want to thank you for even having the time. I know you got a lot going on with FIFA prep and everything else, but to be on a show like this, it really shows a commitment to our community as far as I'm concerned. Real quick, I just wanted to, we talked a little bit about accountability and your team being able to close some of these cases and some of the crime reduction, I guess, has happened during your period here. And I'm just wondering, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the real-time crime prevention, the cameras. There was a lot of controversy earlier this year around that. We had, I saw where it was a lot of people at City Council that testified against it. I saw black people that testified for it. And I just want to kind of hear from you, what's your take on the real, obviously you're for it, right? You're the police chief, right? But can you tell us why, and why you're for it specifically, and what's the ROI on it? Are you seeing the returns on this system, right, that maybe outweigh some of these fears that folks may have around the cameras being misused?
Sure. I appreciate you saying that. So let me be clear. The Real-Time Crime Center predates me. It was already in production when I arrived. Real-time crime centers have been around for decades. And although new to Seattle, it is not new to policing. I built the Real-Time Crime Center in Salisbury, North Carolina, in 2017.
Right.
2017. And this is a city that's at the time about 1/4 the size of Seattle. Real-time crime centers are in all of your major cities, including cities that are under consent decrees. And what that means is that cities that are under federal oversight have not found issue with real-time crime centers. When I think about doing something new or implementing something that hasn't been done before, my leadership test is very simple. I center the voices of those most impacted by my decisions.
Right.
So who are the voices most impacted by where real-time crime centers are, and who is going to be mostly impacted? And the truth of the matter is we have had instances where people were shot, assaulted, or hurt, and it was caught on camera, and we were able to bring them justice because we had that. And so we are still in the evaluation phase. I do not have any plans at this time to expand the Real-Time Crime Center. The city council voted to expand it earlier this year. And so at this point, we're just working through the evaluation phase. It's important for folks to know that we own the footage. It's in Axon system. It's not discoverable by the federal government unless there was, some extenuating circumstances. We could flip the switch if we wanted to. It's not actively monitored. And to be honest with you, there's very few places you can go in any city where you're not on camera. If you don't think you're on camera when you go to Target or Costco, you are sadly mistaken. But here, that there are certain places that are on public space. And when we did it in Salisbury, I referred to them from the beginning as public space cameras so that people didn't think that we would have cameras pointing in their private areas.
In their bedroom.
And in fact, we have a system, Shikundi, where if the camera tilts toward someone's apartment, it automatically pixelates that in the background. So you're only looking at what you see. But I do understand people's apprehension because it's new to Salisbury, but to Seattle, but real-time crime centers have been around for decades.
Right, and just to be clear, right, what I heard you say is the footage, right, that comes from our real-time crime center here in Seattle is managed and owned locally on some type of Axiom system, and it's unavailable to like the federal government or ICE or other folks that want to come in and try to peek into our footage, because I think that was an issue where you see with those some of those cameras, I guess in Olympia they just had that where they said the federal government was actually able to unbeknownst to the city who was doing the right thing, the federal government got a back door into their camera system.
Different system than what we have. They're on a different system.
Okay, now I just wanted to because I think that folks just kind of think that, and I'm like, well, did you ever ask the chief? Let's ask him and see. Right. So thank you for answering that question. just a little commentary on that. It just was really crazy work to me to have a person that could post justice for Amar, who the young man that was murdered in front of Garfield High School last year. This is before you got here, and people constantly asking for the footage. Oh, there should be some cameras and there wasn't any particular footage that was able, to be able to kind of the scene in the real time crime center way. To be able to identify that suspect. I guess they had a hood or something, right? But the point was to hear the same person. I'd be on social media, so I see it a lot from people. And I saw people that said, yeah, where's the cameras? We need more cameras, SPD. And then when this real-time crime center piece was proposed around Garfield High School, where we actually had a young man murdered, and we could have used the cameras, people said, well, we don't need no new cameras. I'm like, well, how can you you can't have both, right? Do you in fact want these cameras to be able to catch the people that are murdering our kids, or do you not want to have a camera? So, and that's not necessarily a question for you. It's just kind of a question for community in my point of view, because we trying to, I just see a lot of our young people and people, whether it's Devon Pickett or whoever that's been, that's been murdered, right?
I think if I can just respond quickly, I think what I hear because I've heard the same argument, I think what people are saying is that they want responsible use of technology.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to give them here at the Seattle Police Department.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And speaking of that, I saw the alert the other day where it came through about the shooting here on the officer involved shooting down on Othello, and I saw you out responding to that. And obviously, I'm not asking for any particular insider police information, but I had actually talked to a couple people where they said they saw this guy with a gun, and people always say, like it's the movies. How come they didn't shoot him in the leg or this and that to incapacitate him, or sandbags, or it just seemed like a huge scene on that street. And I'm just wondering what's your take on it as a person that was there. You're the chief, and obviously you got to speak to the department. But I think community would want to know, are you in fact using the less than lethal options when available for these kinds of things? Because it didn't seem less than lethal that day.
It's about the perception of the officer. At the
Right.
time, the person was armed with the weapon, so less than lethal against a lethal weapon really doesn't. You're really gambling there, and we're talking about a block from an elementary school. There's a lot of variables, but this is what I can say is that the conclusions that will be made about what happened will be done based on an independent investigation from the King County Independent Force Investigation Team, King County Independent Force Investigation Team, what we call IFIT. And so that's a group of detectives from outside of the Seattle Police Department that has maintained or will be maintaining all of the evidence and conclusions thereof. So at this time, I can't comment on anything because they are the agency that is in charge of that particular case.
I appreciate that. Just speak. I know you can't speak on ongoing investigations and all of that.
Yes.
So look, we're coming to the end of our time, and I just really would like for you to one more time just give a special message to our community, especially the Black community. What do you have to say to them about getting involved and being that pillar? I've heard you say on many occasions we can't do it by ourselves, but what does that mean, right? So how can people get involved and be a part of what you're doing, at least to help out when you say you need community to join you?
Yeah, we know, I understand that we have a lot of work to do. Policing is challenging, not just in Seattle, but everywhere. I do understand the historical nature of policing and where we have failed and where we have tried to improve. And so, what I'm asking from the community is your support, your encouragement, and to hold us accountable because I think we become better that way. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we're going to try to be better and get better and do better every single day. I'm proud of the men and women of this department. They have certainly embraced me and my philosophy around neighborhood oriented policing, community policing, and crime prevention. We're seeing the number of applicants increase, which means that people in the community and surrounding areas believe that this is a good place to work and a noble profession. And so we want to bring a lot of credit to that. I want to continue to be a part of the community. I want to continue the invitations that I get to community events, large, medium size, and small, because that makes me, it really makes me happy, but it just lets me know that we're moving in the right direction. And of course, when we fall, understand that if we fall, we're going to get up, we're going to be better, and we're not going to fail. We're going to grow and learn.
I appreciate that, Chief. So specifically, is there a number or an email or a way or a website that if people do want to join somehow, should they reach out to the precinct? Like what's the way for somebody that's listening right now and say, you know what, I'm gonna be part of the solution and see what I can do in my neighborhood? How could they get involved?
Every precinct beginning in January will have a new meeting that we debuted last year called Our City, Our Safety. And it's an opportunity for community members to meet in their neighborhoods. It's not in the police station. We do it out in the community. To come out and join Our City, Our Safety. Tell us what you want from us. We'll demonstrate what we have done and what we can and can't do. And it's an opportunity for everyone to get involved. We're launching that beginning in January. It's called Our City, Our Safety.
Well, you know what, Chief? I appreciate your time today coming on the Mother's Justice Show. And, man, hopefully we can get you back in the first quarter to maybe check in on how the Our City, Our Safety meetings are going. And, yeah, wish you good luck and Godspeed with your work. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And give my love to Reverend Walden.
Yes, sir, will do. Hey, so that's the Mother's Justice Show, y'all. Thanks for tuning in today. Again, follow us on our socials at MFPA206 on Instagram and X. And also we are on Facebook under Mothers for Police Accountability. We'll see you next time. Thank you.